The conglomerates simply hid the sugar by putting it into new forms and creating new names. This way, people wouldn't see the word sugar on the food label, but it could still be hiding inside. Some names sugar goes by are agave nectar, brown rice syrup, high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, evaporated cane juice, glucose, lactose, malt syrup, molasses, sucrose. Another classic example is when the sugar pushers began putting the word natural into all of their advertising. Made from natural ingredients became their slogan. But all refined sugars are made from natural ingredients. So is cocaine and heroin. During the 1970s, armed with new studies showing the dangers of refined sugars and exposing them in all of their forms, the American public began to wake up. For the first time since the 50s, sales of certain high-sugar foods slowed down. But the conglomerates had prepared for this and had been hard at work developing yet another weapon of their own: artificial sweeteners. Perhaps the most notorious of these was aspartame, more commonly known as Equal or NutraSweet. The story of how it became approved by the FDA is startling. By this time, the diet craze was in full swing, and the diet food market was a billion-dollar industry. It was banned in 1973, and another artificial sweetener, cyclamate, had recently been banned when it was found to cause tumors in tests done on animals. Aspartame was initially also rejected by the FDA, but its developer, G.D. Searle, was not having it. Searle presented the FDA 100 different studies that showed it was harmless, studies G.D. Searle had funded themselves. Why not? They knew if they could get it approved, they would make billions. But despite what their studies said, every time an independent study was done, it was found to be dangerous for human consumption. For the first time in history, the FDA sought criminal investigation into a food manufacturer for misrepresenting the safety tests of a product. What the investigation revealed was shocking. Deceased lab animals from the tests were not autopsied for months or even years after their deaths, so that rotting would render any tumor data inaccurate. Other animals were found to have tumors cut out and thrown away. Then the animals with the removed tumors were labeled as normal. Obvious tumors were labeled as normal swelling. The FDA easily ruled that aspartame would not receive final approval. But what would follow was a set of dirty political tricks that must have made Abraham Lincoln roll over in his grave. G.D. Searle first arranged to actually hire the U.S. attorney who was leading the investigation. Samuel Skinner first resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office, stalling the investigation, then went to work for Searle. Later that year, Donald Rumsfeld was hired on as CEO of Searle. Yes, the same Donald Rumsfeld that was Secretary of Defense during the Bush administration. He appointed several political buddies to top management positions and proclaimed he would get aspartame approved within 1 year. At the time, Reagan had just been elected, and Rumsfeld was part of Ronald Reagan's transition team, who was in charge of choosing a new FDA commissioner. They appointed a man named Arthur Hall Hayes, Jr. One of Arthur Hayes' first acts as FDA commissioner was to appoint a 5-person panel to review the final decision to reject aspartame. 3 of the 5 panel members still voted not to approve it, citing the animal tumors as a big concern. So what did Hayes do? Simple. He appointed a 6th member to tie the vote at 3-3. Then Hayes, a man who knew nothing of food additives, decided he as a commissioner should get a vote also. He then cast the deciding vote himself in favor of approval. Shortly after this scheme, Hayes resigned from his position as FDA commissioner, after which he was hired by Searle for a position paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I know this sounds like a tale from a political horror movie, but sadly, it is 100% true. After all was said and done, aspartame was approved. Coca-Cola began using it to make Diet Coke, which they then marketed as a weight loss drink. In that first year alone, the FDA received over 600 consumer complaints reporting headaches, dizziness, and other strange reactions to this new, foreign substance our bodies were never designed to handle. But the food conglomerates had won. And since then, over the last 30 years, more and more of these refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, preservatives, and other unnatural elements have infiltrated our food supply, creating essentially a new diet, without ever giving us a choice. The year now is 2013. Governments have finally wised up and are now backtracking, trying to clean up this mess. In March of 2013, New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg fought to lower sugar and sweetener consumption in his city by banning regular and diet sodas over 16 ounces. This September, Paul van der Velpen, the head of Amsterdam's health service, spoke out to call sugar an addictive drug that should be tightly regulated. And just last month, the country of Mexico made motions to put large taxes on sodas, just like the American government did with cigarettes. But like cigarettes, these dangerous additives have now become what feels like a permanent part of our society. So, what is the result of all this? What do these unnatural things actually do once we put them in bodies? Why did the dogs in F. Marjandi's study die faster when sugar was added to their diets? Why are more people getting sick than ever before? Why are more people suffering from obesity than ever before? And why is cancer predicted to soar by 50% by the year 2020? The answer may frighten you, as it did me. Doctors are now saying it could be the widest spread health hazard to hit North America since cigarettes, polio, HIV, or hepatitis. In our lifetimes, this one thing will affect more Americans than all four of these combined. In 2005, molecular biologists at Rice University estimated it was already affecting 70% of the American population. What is it? It's the consequence of the unnatural elements we've been exposed to, and the deep, dark secret the food conglomerates are right now, as we speak, spending millions of dollars to try and sweep under the rug. They have some help from the killer itself, because this disease takes over your body from the inside. Most never even know it is there, until it's too late. Its name is Candida, otherwise known as the American parasite. Candida is a type of fungi, a single-celled member of the yeast family. Where did it come from? Was it carried over on a boat from Africa? Or did it come from livestock? Actually, no. Candida is a natural resident of your digestive tract, along with 25 trillion other bacteria, some good and some bad. So long as the balance stays in order, which scientists say now is 80% good bacteria to 20% bad, your digestive and immune systems will continue to function normally. But here's where the problem starts. Candida is a member of the yeast family. And do you know what yeast likes to eat? You guessed it. Refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and preservatives. All of the things that have been added to our food supply in just the last 50 or so years. Maybe you did the experiment back in science class, where you put yeast on a petri dish and fed it sugar to get it to grow. That's what's happening in your stomach right now. Let's take a look at that picture again. These are actual Candida albicans growing in a petri dish. When you feed the Candida, it starts to breed, faster and faster and faster. Soon it has outnumbered the good bacteria in your stomach. Then it makes its way into your upper and lower intestine and throughout your entire GI tract. Before long, it begins to expand into other parts of your body, resulting in serious medical problems that can cripple your ability to enjoy a happy life. Fatigue, weight gain, sleeplessness, bloating and gas, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, skin problems, fungal infections. These are just the start of the havoc Candida can wreak onto your body. If you're suffering from any one of these symptoms, it's very likely this parasite is to blame. When you take antibiotics, Candida growth accelerates even faster, as antibiotics kill off many of the good bacteria that would otherwise keep it in check. It's because of all this, doctors estimate that currently, at the time this video was being produced, in the fourth quarter of 2013, 80% of all Americans suffer from some degree of Candida overgrowth. Dr. David Perlmutter, a personal advisor to Dr. Oz,